Hey guys, welcome to the Writer's Corner. Colin Zafke here. As you can see today, what I want to talk about is a very important writer, genius writer, and one that did not get the attention and accolades that she deserves. She did in some ways, but still very, very genius fantasy and science fiction writer, Madeline L'Engle. Once again, some of these stories, like the one you can see that's depicted here, A Wrinkle in Time, which is what I'm going to talk about today, are stories that maybe you read in school. I read this story the first time in grade school, and I've read it many times since then. Since the first time I read A Wrinkle in Time, which is part of a series of books that are all tied together, I was impacted. Something about the story resonated with me. You have this surface, kind of on the surface, the child Meg, Meg Murray, and her prodigious, genius little brother, Charles Wallace, and they meet these mythical creatures, Mrs. Who, Mrs. Whatsit, and all of them, and to go find their father who disappeared. He was a scientist. He was working on something, and also their mother, Sandy, right? And you're introduced to the Tesseract, which allows them to bend space and time and travel through the universe. All those things just fascinated me. What I didn't know at the time, of course, my young brain could not capture the undertones, which is what I like to talk about now. The true theme of this story, the underlying message of Madeline L'Engle, which was breaking out against a system. It was rebelling against strict rules and conformity. And that stemmed from Madeline's childhood, where she grew up in a family that attended the Anglican Church, very strict code of rules and values, ethics. And she was sent to boarding school. Little did I know at that time, when I read this book, and I myself was born into a very conservative, high control cult, religious cult. This story was screaming to me on a subconscious level, a philosophical level that I wasn't able to understand and pick up at that moment. But it planted a seed. What I want to talk about just briefly here today, I don't want to make these videos very long, but is the one we see right here. Particularly the chapter in the book, and it's interesting that another thing that she talked about, which was visionary, ahead of her time, was the planet Camazotz. So you have this black thing, the black thing, which is coming towards Earth. It's going through the universe, swallowing up planets, swallowing up galaxies, bending people to its will, taking over their brains, their decision-making processes, and it's coming to Earth. So Meg and Charles Wallace and the rest of their little friends there go with the three celestial beings, Mrs. Who, Mrs. Whatsit, and the Happy Medium, and they go through the black thing, which is like evil. It's this emptiness. And on the other side, there are planets that had given in to the black thing. And when you go down to this planet, which is called Camazotz, it is controlled by it. Now, what I never noticed at the beginning, because guys, when I first read this is back in the 80s. But Madeline L'Engle was a genius. It's a capital I-T. It's IT. It's information technology. It's AI. It's like the IT guy, the IT department. Everything having to do with information and technology is what had the people controlled. Just like we're seeing today. More and more, as I've always said, people willingly handing over their wills, their decision-making processes, control of their lives, their finances, everything to technology, computer programs, AI, machines. In the story of Wrinkle in Time, when they reach the planet of Camazotz and they come down this hill and they come into this regular kind of just normal, as if they were on Earth, a suburban looking neighborhood. But as they continue on, they notice something is off. Everything is uniformity. Everything is conformity. All of the houses are exactly the same. All of the houses have exactly the same color. And then they really notice it when all of a sudden, as if on cue, all these people come out of their houses. And you see this. The mothers all come out. They all look the same hair, same color, same dress on, same pattern. All of the children come out at the same time. They skip rope. They bounce balls, all in clockwork rhythm, all at the same time. And they're horrified at this, as if it were a heartbeat. And they realize that this is what it represented. This is what the evil black thing represented. It wasn't monsters or aliens. It was complete, dull, boring, will-less slavery. Completely handing over your will to somebody else. Now, in the case of Madeline L'Engle, that could be debated whether that was to religion or what that was exactly, but any group that hijacks your will and your mind and your decisions fits into this Camazotz. But there was one boy, if you read the story, you know what I'm talking about. There was one boy who didn't seem to fit in. He was bouncing his ball out of rhythm. And then he would lose it and the ball would roll away and he would run after it and he'd be laughing like a normal child should be doing, right? And what happened? The mother was horrified. She grabbed him and ran back in the house, right? He dared to be different, to be an individual. And then you see later on in the story, when they finally reach this complex, this prison where Meg and Charles Wallace's father is being held, and it is inside there as well. They pass by this kind of transparent jail cell, and they see that child in there. And he's being tortured. Very dark book for children. Very dark book. Very deep themes that she's talking about here. So this child's being tortured. He's in this cell, and they're conditioning him that he must bounce the ball in rhythm. And every time the ball bounces, the child screams in abject, excruciating pain. Very, very strong imagery of being forced to conform to this system. And they finally find it. They come to it, and it's this huge disembodied brain in this glass dome. And ooh, it ebbs. And of course, before that, they find the the man with the red eyes and the suit here, very polished looking man, very soft spoken and very eloquent, but he tries to hypnotize them. He tries to brainwash them, almost like the religious leaders, the pastors, the priests. How does this relate to what I'm talking about here? Well, in authors, the writer's corner, we're talking about methods of writing, right? And in this particular type of writing, where we're talking about, for example, with science fiction and fantasy, this is the kind of science fiction and fantasy writing that I like. Just like with Ray Bradbury. Their stories were not just fantastical. Kurt Vonnegut's stories didn't have messages behind them. Except for maybe, I think there's an exception, which is Harrison Bergeron. We'll talk about that in another story. But in general, Kurt Vonnegut's stories were just very kind of ridiculous and funny, and there wasn't a real message behind it necessarily. But when you're talking about Ray Bradbury, Madeline L'Engle, there was a very deep warning and a deeper underlying message to their stories about society and about people. In this case, conformity. Just like George Orwell's 1984. Conformity, giving up oneself, giving up your life, your wants, your desires to a system, whether that be voluntarily or involuntarily, but you become a robot, an automaton, without any will, without the ability to do what you want. You're just following the system. And if you're born into the system, like the children there, they don't know the difference. They know nothing what's outside of the planet of Camazotz. They have no idea what independence is or freedom, creativity. All they know is blind obedience, uniformity, conformity, and they even say in there that uniformity and conformity are security. It's safety. Just obey because it knows best for you. Fascinating story. If you get a chance to read all the series of Madeline L'Engle, like A Wrinkle in Time, A Swiftly Tilting Planet, and the other ones that are in that series, please do so. It's worth it. And for those of us who are science fiction writers, I believe, in my personal case, this is what we need to strive for. Not just fantastical stories that are impossible, just pure fiction and science fiction, but there should always be a deeper message underlying it. Who are going to be the next Ray Bradburys? Who are going to be the next Madeline L'Engles and Isaac Asimovs and George Orwells? Food for thought for today. See you guys in the next Writer Corner. Keep writing and keep creating